4 bits. And then this one takes 6 bits. As you can see, I've divided the section is on that is a little dark. I apologize for that design. And then this also takes what? So if you give an instruction that contains 2 bytes to the processor, this is how it will format. It will leave 6 for the address, first address, and 6 for the second address, and 4. This one always takes 4 address unless you are dealing with it. Sorry, not address, opcode, unless you are dealing with the complex operation code. But that is how the processor, the instruction is being formatted. And then there are other things also apart from the opcode addresses of the instruction. There are other things that you need to know when the processor is formatting the instruction. One of those things include the address range, the range of the registry that you are picking your operands from. And then you also have the number of addressing modes. Now, there are other instructions that contain more than one addressing mode. Now, what happens here is, my friends will come and talk about addressing mode. I don't want to really go into this, but there are other instructions that contain more than one addressing mode. So the computer will also have to format a way of giving more than one addressing mode so that the processor understands that this type of instruction have more than one. And then there is also number of operands. Now, operands simply refer to the digits or the data that the processor performs the instruction on. In our case here, 10 and 12 are called operand. While this one, if we talk in the programming language, where we talk about the plus becomes the operator. So basically that is that. Allow me to move forward to the next part. Now to look at the instruction type. There are basically 5 instruction types, but within our scope we are going to share 4 with you. Now the first instruction type from instruction format, the first format we're going to share with you is the 3 address format. Now, I gave you how the instruction is being formatted with using 2 address. Now, here is where your OP, CODE comes in, the operation code. Now, the first type of instruction type we have, the format we have is the 3 address format. The 3 address format uses 3 registry or memory location in this formatting each instruction. That is where we have 3 numbers. Such an example gets employed when you are adding 3 numbers. Let's say A plus B plus C. So each of the operands here has to take a specific address. So this kind of operations get applied there. What happens here is, in practice, the machine executes such kind of instruction. When you pass 3 address format instruction into the processor, this is how it executes it. It gets the value of this and gets it with this, and it accumulates it in the variable in the memory location for B, and that is how it performs, because computer cannot do all those 3 instructions at the same time. So what it will do, it will first add these 2 things, and then using an accumulator, which is a registry, a component of registry, to pass it so that it can be able to generate the third value. And then we also have 2 address format. This is where instead of having 3 address, we have the operation code, and then we have address A and address B. Here there are only 2 addresses. This address can be either a registry value, or it can also be the memory location that is being referenced. So these two address code gives the second type, which is called the 2 address format. And this also gets applied in adding number. For example, when you are adding numbers using your computer, the computer uses the 2 address format to format the instruction so that the processor can understand, because A plus B, it has to locate these 2 locations plus the operation code which you have pressed through your keyboard. That's how the instruction gets executed. Now let's go to the third one. There is what we call 1 address format. Now, for example, you have now the one address. You have opcode. Now, this one is saying only there is one address. Now, the question you'll ask yourself is, how can one thing be added? Are we getting that? So, with such kind of instructional format, it can also be applied when we are adding numbers. Still, it is possible. But the computer uses what we call accumulator, as I told you before. Now, this accumulator is a location in the registry that is used to increment something. Now, when you put a number just to be added, one like that, what the computer does is it formats this and take it into this accumulator. In other words, it is used for copying value from one location to another. So that's where the accumulator gets employed in. For example, when your file is here and you want to take it to this location, what the computer does first is it takes the operation code for the word move. Move is an example of operation code to move from one location to another. And then the value, the data that you are going to move to that location, which in case is going to reference this one. As a result, it takes this one through this operation code and move it to the location where you want it. That is where the one address operator gets employed in. Sorry, I have the zero operator. Now, the zero address format. Now, this does not have addresses that it references. Now, I don't know whether some of you have done data structures. When we are in parties, plate can be piled like this in line. One plate here, two plates here, three plates here, and the servers will be here and the people will come and pick this plate. But in this case, we will take the whole line when we have been spread only 10 plates. But what happens is they pack these plates on top of one another so that you continue picking. So this is an example of a stack of plates. It's a data structure used for holding data where data are packed on one another. Now the process of adding a data onto a stack is called push. Now the process of getting data out of a data structure is called pop. Now this one address, the zero address format get employed when we are trying to work with the stack data structure. Now for it, it has a difference because when the processor is acting on this data structure, it is already in the processor. So it does get that value, it has nowhere to put it, but it knows I'm working on this, so it does pack it. It's like packing something. So you don't have to know where you are picking your value from. You have already something in your hand. The processor has the data in its hand, so it just continues to pack on the stack. So that are basically the instruction format that we have looked at. We basically have the file. So with that, I have nothing to say. In case there is a question, I will welcome the next presenter.
You have a question for me?
Yes.
Six and 4 years. Now, how do you divide those bits, those addresses and the opcode? And also, how about if they are the address? How do you put the bits and how many bits will be there?
Good. The first thing I started with is I told you there was an assumption made. The assumption was we were working with 2 bytes of data. That means it is 16 bits. But the idea there was to show you that opcode uses what? 4 bits. Now, if the opcode takes the 4 bits, now the remaining bits are for the addresses. Now, if it is in 3 address, that means when 2 address takes 16 bits, that means the moment the address continues to increases, the size what? Increases. That's why in calculators, when you add A plus B, A plus C plus D, it takes longer for the calculator to give the answer because the data has been worked upon, the size has increased. So as the size increases, also the number of bits increases. Yes?
How long is an instruction?
How long is an instruction? I really don't have direct answer to that. It's a motion for discussion. I don't know what you mean. You could also simplify.
You're talking about instruction.
Yes.
And instructions are divided.
Because when you say long, you are talking about time.
Length
Of an instruction. It depends. I don't really have a fixed value. You say instruction that 2 bits or 1 bit. I don't have that.
You talked about the zero address.
Yes.
Now, what is the output when you tell the opcode to operate in the zero address?
In zero address.
Yeah.
Now, it is not me telling the opcode to operate in zero address, but it is the processor, it is the computer that formats. Now, I told you when you will be using what? The zero. First, you have what? You have that. But this one does not have the address. The address is not there. Now, what happens? I told you you were working with a stack. Do you know about data structure? Now, you're working with the stack data structure. Now, what happens with the stack data structure? You might not give a direct output on the projector or on the screen, because these are data structure. It is still within the internal component of the instruction set, so you might not have an output direct to the computer. That is why instruction, when you are processing it, it might not be one thing you do, bam, and it flows and gives out the answer I told you in the beginning. You combine all these instructions together. To give an output maybe on the screen, something like that, there has to be a number of instructions that are combined together to fetch now the value you have used the zero format into a screen. I don't know if I've answered you. Time is really going. I think
questions will come later.
yeah.
You can continue.